Hi, we are live.
Yay! I'm posting right now that we are going live right now. That's what I'm doing. So you kind of caught
Well,
me.
that's all right. It is Tuesday. How are you feeling?
I am, you know what? Today has been a really great day. It's been a great day. I haven't had some great days in the last 4 or 5 days, but today I'm feeling great. I
Well,
feel
I'm drinking
strong.
soda this week and not a
No.
cocktail.
Well, I'm drinking lemonade, so it's all good.
I'm trying to behave myself this week.
Oh, I'm gonna let you behave because Fourth of July weekend is this weekend. I'm just gonna have some tequila and some ribs and just enjoy. I have 2 days off, so I get to relax and breathe. So
Nice.
that's gonna be good.
Nice. Well, I am excited about today's episode. We have all of the chefs, and I titled it "Where Are All the Black Chefs?" because I'm super tired of that question, and we talked about that a couple weeks ago. So anyway, there's a whole book. So if people want to know
Oh,
where they are, drop the link. They can order the book. They're right here. There's 100 or more of them right here in this book that you are so easily able to find. So before we bring everybody in, I'm going to have you introduce Alan, Battman, and you guys can talk briefly about like how the project got started. And then we have 3 of the feature
Can
chefs
you see this big smile on my face though? I'm just so proud of everyone.
along with you that we're going to add to the thing. So I'm going to bring Alan in. Hey, Alan.
Hey
Hey,
guys,
Alan.
ladies, how are y'all?
Good.
We are
How are you?
I'm good. I was looking
good.
forward to this.
Welcome to the conversation.
Well, thanks for having me. This is. I'll see if I can keep up the conversation.
Thank you, Kevin. Kevin just put
Got
in
the link
the
for us.
review.
Good looking out, Kevin.
Yeah, he's so awesome. Kevin Mitchell, we love
Hello,
you.
Kevin. There he is.
And he put in the link where you can buy this amazing book. Alan, tell us who you are and how we all came about in this project.
Okay. Well, my name is
You found
Alan.
all the black chefs, Alan.
Was that?
You found all the black chefs.
I
It's like
found them.
Family.
Actually,
you found them all.
when I started, I didn't think I was going to have enough chefs to fill a book. So the first 10 chefs, I asked for 2 recipes, and then I found out I could have filled up 10 books. And actually, a lot of the chefs that are in the book found out that there were a lot of other black chefs that they didn't know about. So this has been a real eye-opener and wonderful, the best adventure I ever had. Oh, so my name is Alan Bat, actually, but since I was a kid, everybody called me Batman. So it stuck. I won't tell you the area code, but my phone number is Batman. So I don't get any nasty calls. And I became a food photographer in 2001. I was a photographer before that. I was taking pictures of New York and putting on greeting cards. I never wanted to be a photographer, and I'm not a foodie, and now I'm doing pictures with the best chefs in the world. 6 of them are here, or 5, or how many of you guys there? Anyway, so when the internet came along and put all of my stores out of business that I was selling greeting cards to, I decided to take pictures of food. And my first picture was at the Tribeca Grill, actually. Anyway, so then I did that for 3 years, and I had all these stuff that I made. Oh, that's okay.
Stop, Mom.
So, are we good?
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. It was kind of a cool noise.
It's my mom calling. Stop, Mom. It's okay.
So the first book I did was called The Great Bagel and Lox Book, and I had 85 chefs from New York, and then I had a big charity event and I had all the chefs there. So I've done 15 charity books, and I published them myself. And then 16 was the Toques In Black. I've done other books too. I have 27 altogether, but as far as charity goes, the Toques was the last of so far. And I was looking for something to do that would be interesting, that would be, I don't know, different and help some way, whatever. And I knew 3 chefs in New York that were black, and I decided I should do a black chef's book. And so it was all word of mouth. And I'd ask who knows who, and then I went all over the country. I did 36 cities, I think it was.
That's amazing.
And 101 chefs. And really, it was the best adventure I've ever had. I don't know what I'm going to do next that could be anywhere close.
Part 2. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
Well,
9.
well, actually, I when anybody asked me, I said this is going to be the only Black chef's book that I do because I didn't want to segregate everybody like everybody else is.
Mm-hmm.
So when I have these other great gathering of chefs I have in New York, it's 200 chefs. We usually get about 150 show up, and because it's in New York, it's 95% white, and then Black and Spanish and Asian.
Okay.
So I just decided that on any of the other books that I do, I'll just include everybody, more of everybody. Although the next book I'd like to do is women, so.
Hey, we're right here.
Before we put the other guys on. Oh no, Cassandra's here. So that's how I got into it. It was just something I didn't, at the time. It was 2 years ago. Actually, it was 2 years ago this month that I decided to do this book, and the racism wasn't quite as obvious as it is now. So it's a good time to do it, and the book is. It's a nice book. We have stories of the chefs when they were growing up and pictures when they were kids, except for 5 who didn't have any pictures when they were kids. So, but I wonder if they really didn't, or they were not that good looking.
My picture of me as a kid would be disappeared. Absolutely not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'd be like, oh, we don't have any. Sorry.
Oh. Okay. Well, I was kind of cute. I was fat when I was a kid.
Nice. Well, let's bring in Chef Randy Strickland, and he can talk about his experience and why he wanted to get started and all that fun good stuff.
And what he's doing right now. Hi, Chef.
Hey, everybody. Hey, everyone. Good to see you.
Randy.
Hey, Alan. Hey, Shanita and Erica. So I'm here in New York City.
My favorite city.
I love the city. I'm originally from South Carolina, a small little town. And it was in South Carolina where I grew up on 2 farms going back and forth between my grandparents, mom's side and dad's side. And one side was full of livestock. So we were always catching and slaughtering and cutting and preparing and cooking our food. And the other, my dad's family was more into agricultural. So we had that. So I was in that garden picking and shelling and all of that. So that's always been a part of my background. I never knew that there were Black chefs growing up, especially in the smaller town of South Carolina. So I ended up joining the military and had a whole different experience and found myself on Broadway working backstage.
Oh, wow.
And during my 20 plus years on Broadway, I kind of became the caterer for all the shows. And I was cooking for everyone on the different shows, whether they were headliners or crew members or chorus boys and girls, women and men. And that turned into a legitimate business as a caterer that on their urging, I opened up a restaurant 5 years ago and right here in Times Square, one of 3 Black restaurants when I opened. And now there's only one because after COVID, we've all shut down. So I'm looking to open up a smaller space now in the area to keep a Black presence and also to keep authentic Southern food in the heart of New York City.
That's amazing. So were you one of the original chefs or how did you get connected with the project?
Remind me, would you?
Yeah, well, the word was out and I was contacted saying, hey, do you know about this book? And I said, no. So when I read about what was happening, I contacted Alan and said, this sounds amazing. I don't know if there's an extra little thin page I can fit on, even if it's on the little corner at the bottom. Or he contacted me back and said, yeah, I can see what I can do. And that's how I ended up on the project. And I am humbled to be in all of these amazing chefs' presence and to be in a book alongside of them, some of them my favorite. And amazing to turn a page and to see a Black face, male, female, doing what they're doing. I love it.
I'm going to keep putting the link up so everyone sees it because we want them to order it from this link here and not any other place.
Fantastic. One thing I was
place to order it, actually.
Oh, well, so there you go.
Yeah, so we're good.
Wait,
Randy, you must tell them where we took the picture.
Oh, well, against me kicking and screaming, but Alan, I have 2 floors at the restaurant. I had 2 floors and beautifully laid out. And he decided that the bathroom on the first floor was spectacular, so he used the backdrop of the bathroom without showing any of the bathroom fixtures to do our. And
picture. You were probably like, "Do what? Oh no, no, oh no." Okay, so I want to bring in Seth Cassandra. So we got to get some. We're all about the lady energy here in North End.
Amen.
But we have to have some of that lady energy. So I want to slide her in here so that she can tell us about her experience, a little bit about her background, and I'm going to get everybody in here. And I like to ask the tough questions.
Yes, she does. She has the tough questions. I'm the easygoing one.
Uh-oh, I think we might have lost her connection.
No, she's right there. I see you.
It's frozen.
Okay. Let's try.
Okay, Scott, you're up.
How did I lose you?
Hey, Scott.
How are you?
Okay, so you have to tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, how you got roped into this beautiful book and this amazing project.
So, really quickly, I started cooking when I was a little boy. My mother wanted to be a chef, and it wasn't really practical for a woman and a Black woman in the 30s in New York City to do that. And she raised her 2 boys, my brother and I, to be really versed in food from pre-K. And we both cook and are good cooks, but I wanted to have a career in it. And I think initially I followed my dad in his first career, but I ended up following her in the career she wanted because of the work she had helped start. And I was put myself through college as a waiter. And one of the jobs I worked at in New York City after college, I went to art school. And I needed to make money to be able to make my art. And Jeff wanted me to work for him in the kitchen. And it was an opportunity I thought would be exciting because I always liked cooking, but I was just avocational. I ended up trading culinary school, like the work exchange for culinary and 2 schools in New York City in the early 80s. And I worked for Patrick Clark, important Black chef.
The best meatloaf recipe.
7 years I worked with him in a couple of different restaurants. I trained in France. And when the economy went down in New York in the end of the beginning of the 90s, I went to California, stayed there about a decade and came back here. And when I came back, and that's important in this moment, I opened the W hotel chain. And the pastry chef was a guy named George McCurdy. Oh. And George McCurdy knows Alan.
Yeah,
and
I didn't know that he was there. Okay.
George called me and said, "You need to be in this." George is a lovely guy. He's a Puerto Rican pastry chef. Super. You got to taste his food. I always get it confused. Either is the pastry chef for Google or Facebook now. I forget which one.
It was Google.
Google? It's Google?
I think so. Wait, that was up there. Yeah, it was Google. I wasn't
I thought it was Google.
Yeah.
And so, I have a history that on one level is very French, having trained in France. And then in the latter part of the time I was really active in restaurants, I did kind of America's cooking from North, South, Central, not just the United States. And I had an opportunity a little over a decade ago to go to Brazil to study food.
Oh, nice.
It made me want to study food. And so I was a consultant and a working chef, but I continued to consult, but put myself back through school. And now I teach about food. I do culinary education to a certain degree, but more it's history and culture of the food of the African diaspora.
Oh, wonderful. So I'm just now, we have like a food historian here, just an overall historian here in town. And so I've been taping a series with her, and we just started out talking about Juneteenth. And just a little bit of food traditions. And then next time she and I tape, we're going to talk about cooking Civil War, post-Civil War and pre-Civil War, and kind of like the roles that African-American chefs played pre-Civil War and post-Civil War. So I think that I was telling her Juneteenth wasn't something that I celebrated. We went to like a festival, but I didn't really understand all of the dynamics of that. And now that I'm going down that rabbit hole, I'm like, mind blown.
It's really fascinating history. I, like you, I didn't grow up with Juneteenth either. I was probably in my 20s or 30s when I'd heard about it, but it didn't make much sense to me.
Right.
And I grew up in Connecticut, so it's like so far from Texas, whatever. But there's a lot that we can talk about. There's a lot of contributions. I was a curatorial assistant for this exhibition that, because of COVID, is delayed, called African/American Making the Nation's Table, where we were scheduled to have an event. And it's the history of the African diaspora influence in American cooking. And it's really all about the 400 years and all these ways, not just some superstar chef that you might know, but inventions, agriculture, knowledge shared, knowledge acquired because enslaved people who had knowledge that the Europeans didn't have, so they went seeking knowledge. There's a lot that we can discuss.
So I think Chef Cassandra, is she back? Nod your head if you're back. I think she's back. Let me go.
There she
Can you hear me?
Chef.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. I had to change location. Something's going on around here.
Yeah, it's always like that. It's like the internet never acts crazy until we decide we're going to get on live.
Right.
2 weeks ago, my computer decided to update at 6:30.
Right.
I did at 5:30. I was like,
oh no.
But I got it. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Chef.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you for bringing the lady energy.
Woohoo.
Yes. Yes. Glad to be a part and glad to be a part of a unique society as well as sorority, and to have the opportunity to be among great chefs is really phenomenal. And to have the opportunity to meet Battman and to be a part of this book is just paramount. And when I share with other people that are in the South, and those that are in other places, of course, they're always excited to see the beautiful pictures and recipes. So it is truly a work of art.
Yes, excited about beautifully done cookbook. So that gives me into my first question. Obviously, Alan, you said you started this project 2 years ago, and who knew that the landscape of this country in terms of racism and I like to call it like it is, cultural appropriation, would change. Because what was acceptable 2 years ago in food and food publication and in writing is not acceptable today. So, did you know you were a pioneer, or this is just something like what? I don't.
Me?
Yes.
I had no idea. I was just looking for something interesting to do and help out some way that I could. And so I did it, and I had no idea really until, I don't know, 7 months ago, where everything went wrong. So, and now I feel more energized and more, this is a really good thing to do. And you guys are honored to be in the book. I am totally honored to be involved with you guys and ladies. But I lived in California for 3 years, so everybody's a guy. So just don't take it the wrong way.
It's okay. We'll let that slide. It's all good.
So I wanted to say, can answer this question. We have really been talking about, this podcast came out of COVID because I was just frustrated, and I'm probably only in the business for about 23 years. And I grew up not seeing anybody who works like me, who looks like me in upper management. Of course, I've worked in other kitchens with other Black people. That's not what I'm saying. But I've never worked with people, other Black chefs, like I just never have. And so now that I am graduated, I always work with my college that I went to and the other African-American up and coming chefs to be like, you guys can call me, we can talk, we can whatever. And so I feel like now at this point, it's really important to be in control of our narratives. And so I just wanted you guys' feedback on, you know, the implications or the impact of this on your career, if there has been any yet. Anybody?
I can put something in there. I think it's a little difficult to judge right now because there's not that many people working.
Well,
It's kind of hard to figure out, well, how is it going to be afterward? We're going to try and make it different when this is all over. There are 101 of us, maybe 102 at Shanita.
for sure.
Okay.
I had two things happen. One, I'm on the board of an organization called the Association for the Study of Food and Society that asked me to run a conversation with two women whose books all of you should read. One is called Black, oh God, and of course I can't think of it. Black Food Geographies by Ashante Reese. The other one by Monica White is, I'll have to look it up. I'm sorry, I didn't think of the name. But we had a really interesting conversation about a week ago with 300 people online because somebody had seen Toques In Black, the kitchen sessions. And I'm also tomorrow going to be in the Smithsonian as part of their now virtual Folklife Festival with people in Brazil that I know cooking. They're going to teach me how to cook a sacred dish and a secular dish and talk about the intersection of secular and sacred food. So that's been fun.
Scott, you mentioned the cooking sessions.
Mm-hmm.
Can you break that down a little bit?
So, because I live in New York City, and when I met Battman, once we talked on the phone a little bit, he decided to come to my house to say he didn't like the headshots I had. I didn't have a current headshot. We were talking about marketing the book, and I was trying to think of what I could do, and then COVID happened, and I thought I'm on the James Beard Foundation, one of the committees, and I thought, oh, maybe I can use connections I have to some of the culinary bookstores to promote it because they have networks of people who are interested in cookbooks. And that became a discussion with him that ended up becoming a weekly webinar on a podcast with generally two chefs. Often they don't know each other, and they're in two different geographies, and they're either cooking together, teaching each other, cooking their own dishes that are reflective of what they think about where they cook, what is ready and ripe in their region. Chef Cassandra did it with Kimberly Brock Brown, looking at food that was available, ingredients in the food banks in their respective communities. Erica did it and taught us incredible desserts on a break from work in the morning. Many different people from the book have come. Between 30 to 60 people come to look. It's been a really, really productive thing for me. I've met a lot of chefs that are in the book that I didn't know because we're online together. So I get a different sense of them. And there's a Vimeo channel, Toques In Black Kitchen Sessions, where you can see most of the episodes that have been recorded to date. It's free.
Okay, Chef Cassandra, tell us about your episode, Cooking from a Food Bank. Uh-oh, did we lose her again?
She looked like she froze.
She froze. So we'll ask her when she comes back. Okay, Randy, you got.
No, there she goes. There she is.
Oh wait, here she goes. She's back. There you go.
Yeah.
Are you back?
Oh, bummer.
There she is. Yay.
Yes.
I don't know what happened. Can you? Okay. Yes.
There you are.
Sorry, guys. I thought, okay, so what's happening here in Dallas, Texas is, and I guess all around, but of course I'm just privy to what's going on in my backyard here. And so one of the things that I am becoming inundated with because I am a chef is that people in my neighborhood are getting products that they don't know how to prepare. Lentils, garbanzo beans, what are some of the other things? So Chef Kimberly Brock Brown and I did an episode on garbanzo beans and making it a wonderful vegetarian dish out of it. And so it allowed me the opportunity to share with other people. If you got this product, this is what you can do with it. I'm going to do this series on lentils and how to have lentils in 3 or 4 different ways. And the fact that in rice, they are loading people down with grains. And, back in the day, we would only eat grains and meat as a luxury. And now we're going back to that time that we have to really focus on the things that are nutritious for us, that are going to fool our families and quiet them down so that we can go on with our day-to-day lives. So having an opportunity to share cooking methods with those kind of things really were important. And look, and people are talking about it. So we're glad we chose that topic.
Oh, for sure. I think that as we have gotten into this pandemic, and you and I are kind of in the Midwesty Dallas area, so I'm not that far from you. But and so what's going on there is kind of mirroring what's happening here. But I get text messages all day. People are like, "What am I supposed to do with split peas?" I'm like,
sure.
How many more? I got all these potatoes. I'm tired of mashed potatoes. I'm like, well,
Yes.
with a potato, then mash it, babe. So I feel like maybe, as chefs, I really think the pandemic has brought a little appreciation to what we do. Because for a while, folks
Yes,
were
absolutely.
all their meals and struggling. But you brought up a topic that is kind of close to my heart, food insecurity. And so part of this book is a fundraiser, correct?
Yes, it is. It's to help out actually the chefs that are having a hard time that are in the book. That's what we'd like to do.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I logged on to my Yelp here and I saw that 53% of the restaurants in my area are closed.
Yeah.
Yeah, New York too. New York is a ghost town. It's really. I went from 8th Street to St. Luke's, which is probably about 2nd Street, which is 6 blocks, and there were 7 big restaurants that were closed for rent. I mean, not just closed for the time, for until they get healthy again, but they're just out of business. It's amazing.
And Cassandra, did they close you down now in Texas? Because I know they were talking about it, didn't they? Because they opened, but aren't they closed again now?
Yeah, we open and the governor for permission to close us down again, sheltering in place. And I think you mentioned this earlier, Shanika, the fact of what are we doing and how am I particularly managing going through this pandemic? And as a personal chef and caterer, I'm approaching my 30th year in business, but it has really flourished for me, in that people are sheltering in place. They're tired of eating out. They're not trusting and not having it even available. So I am delivering family meals to the homes weekly, and they are ordering 5 and 6 meals for every day. And so it has really, really surprised me in the fact that it is happening. So yeah, the pandemic, we're going to a mandatory shutdown prior to the 4th of July. So people are really up in arms and, to my imagination, wild imagination, I don't know why, because we're trying to save your lives here. So it's very interesting, but yeah, lots of shutdown, lots of people that are in the restaurant business will never recover. So the new norm is how do we do food and get it to people?
Yeah. If I can piggyback off what you're saying, Chef Cassandra, the new norm is also how do we get them into a restaurant once we're on the other side of this? Because a whole new culture is being developed as we speak. And it was already declining, the restaurant culture, as far as what I was seeing here in the city. So how do we get them into a restaurant that will support the monetary needs of the rent and of salaries and everything else? Because at lower capacity, it's lower dollars in our pockets, and we're already struggling to take care of the necessities without
that overhead is high.
Absolutely. So big restaurants are really will be challenged unless the landlords are going to meet them, somewhere on that spectrum.
It's not just big restaurants; it's food in general.
That's true.
To the article here, and people here in Kansas City are up in arms because Walmarts here are starting to go to cashierless checkout. Now, they've been testing it at the Walmart down the street from me for the last year. Basically, they've put up these security barriers so that you can only go in one way and out the other. And if you try to go out the entrance, it sets off the alarm. But they added like 8, 9 more. They went from 2 to 8 or 9 self-checkout stalls, and they basically never run the people checkout. So they're just using their staff for staffing, for restocking the shelves, and the things that you have to do, like the cigarettes and cashier's checks and that kind of thing behind the customer service. So I think it's just food business from the retail side to the restaurant side is changing, but I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah,
one of the questions I have is about equity and whether we already, let's be honest, we had a dysfunctional business model that people were not treated well. People at the lower end, what they call public-facing parts of the workforce, were not getting good pay, getting good treatment, not getting benefits. And so there's a lot of things that need to be addressed that also needs training to allow people to aspire to be able to get into higher level jobs. If you're going to have, let's say, cashless cashiers, what can people do so they can move up and be able to get a living wage?
Mm-hmm.
True.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that question. I don't. It's the way that this food world is moving. It's if you're not pliable and not adaptable, you will probably be left behind because it's
quickly.
It's changing rather rapidly, and that brings and so then people are talking about here we're dealing with a lot of food insecurity. We lost her for a sec. Go ahead.
You know what it reminds me of? Blockbusters. You know what it reminds me of? Blockbusters. How Blockbusters was a little late and reluctant in stepping up their game in the new norm. And so we're there again, but only in the food industry. So Chef Randy, quiet as is kept, I think you should put your thinking cap on and create yourself again, because it's going to be in less, and I don't mean less and less, but smaller facilities with being smart, less overhead, so that we can get it out and not coming into the doors.
I totally
agree. Norm. We're changing the time.
I totally agree.
It's a paradigm shift, actually.
It is. The part that Scott kind of touched on this, and I want to go back to it. It's the people that we're leaving behind. We have to acknowledge the fact that the restaurant industry is built on the backs of the labor of poor Black and brown people. And if we are moving into a more technological, more higher skill based industry, where does it leave those people?
So then that leaves to ask, can we retrain them to retool them into these new areas that we are going to create? Whether it be, I don't know. I don't know what we're about to create, but you're right. We can't leave them behind, because that's where we're at as a country on so many levels, and that's what got us to this point of we're at this place we are now, sociology. So.
It's interesting when Cassandra was saying about being light on your feet. My paraphrase. I've seen the little bit I've left my house and seen some restaurants of big name chefs. They're doing the kind of very European thing where they do like the plate of the day, kind of like the plate lunch places in the South. We have 3 choices, you know what I'm saying? And at a certain price. And I was, Alan, you would know JoJo on the Upper East Side. I was by there, and they had one that was vegan, vegetarian, one that was fishy, one that was meaty, one that was luxury with lobster and foie gras. That was all pick up and delivery, right? But I was looking at it saying, oh, so what you're really saying indirectly is I could mix and match. If I wanted to have a healthy first course, I could do the pork dish, but you're limiting my choices. The old school way of having all of these options is changing so that he can keep his overhead. And then there were roughly 3 price points that you could kind of do, one from column A, B, C, to get your price point. I said, okay, this is actually a workable model potentially.
Which restaurant was that, Chef?
It's called JoJo. The restaurateur Jean-Georges von Gerichten. It's one of his early restaurants, and it's like a bistro concept. So it was not what you'd expect to be takeaway. I guess what I'm breaking it down to me. And he's got like 15 restaurants in New York. He's got places in probably Bangkok and Paris and stuff like that.
Well, it's interesting to me that they would do foie gras, something on that level.
Well, they won't very soon. When does foie gras go out of business? Next year, no?
Next year. For New York City next year.
But neighborhood dictates.
Rejoicing already, or the geese.
Yeah.
Well, being here in Times Square, in part of the Broadway community, they reached out to me last week, wanting to know how do they support Black businesses.
Oh, that's cool.
Not cool in Times Square because there aren't any.
Yeah.
There aren't any. Literally, being a minority, applying for my loans to open my first restaurant. I'm in that position now, actually.
They're not any.
There's one Black-owned restaurant left in Queen of Sheba, Ethiopian. Wonderful place that's been here for a very long time.
I've eaten there. I've eaten there a bunch of times. It's good.
Yeah, it is. It's very good. It's a few blocks from my house. Now, when I say not in the Times Square area, in the city, think of south of 72nd Street, and then the rest of us are up in Harlem or borderlining going into Harlem and out into the boroughs, Brooklyn, the Bronx, up there. But here in the city, we do not have a foothold, and it has to change with how we can have access to financing and opening our own businesses, because we're not being hired in the upper management positions. And if we're not opening our own businesses here in the city, then we can't further our presence, our color, or our food here. And that's what I run up against, trying to maintain a presence here.
Right.
Because when I go to open up, now trying to open up another place, well, are you going to Brooklyn? No, I'm not going to Brooklyn. Well, are you going to Harlem? No, I want to stay right here in Hell's Kitchen. And those monies are hard to reach.
What was your other place called, Randy?
My first place was called Spoon-Fed NYC.
Oh, I know what you mean. But you're touching the tip of the iceberg to me on a certain level, because when you talk about standalone restaurants, it was hard to get upfront money. Hard to get money upfront from a bank, but people who would fund restaurants who on spec, they wouldn't historically do it for women chefs or Black chefs or Latin chefs. So we were not seen as tried and true, that we were a good bet to invest in. And so, and you see a lot of Blacks in Latins, et cetera, in institutions, in hotels and resorts, because on paper, you can't be discriminated against because of EEOC rules. But to be an independent operator, it's very difficult. And yeah, you're right. It's a very big problematic that is challenging and needs to change. And
but how do we change that? Because we know that micro businesses and small businesses, such as all of ours, are the major employers of people of color. We are going to hire them. We're going to train them, mold them, mentor them much better than they would get if they were a young chef coming in and trying to go to a hotel. Unless there was a African-American executive chef at said hotel, that person is probably better off finding a small business that they can work with in order to do that. And I'm definitely not for cancel culture. I'm in this mode of like accountability culture. While everybody's canceling everybody, I'm not feeling that. I don't want to cancel nobody. I just want to hold people accountable so that as we come outside of this pandemic, we are in control of an industry that greatly benefits on our labor and our intellectual property.
I mean, I think one thing, Shanita, is, you know, we've seen it now as a film concept, but I know here in New York City, you've had some people who will open up a food truck to get their business kind of marketing to people, and then open up a standalone establishment so they can do maybe a $20,000 investment before they're doing, let's say, a $200,000 or $1 million investment. So I think that creative ways to make inroads,
Right.
even if it's one product at a time, the way Famous Amos made chocolate chip cookies, if he did that and then made a pastry shop. I think you have to really think aggressively and assertively and creatively about ways to get inserted into the market so you can get some brand identity, some name recognition, and then be able to get somebody to give you more money, and accrue as well on your own. It's a challenge, and you need allyship, because I was reading an article this week about, you know, buying black, and that realistically, because of the population that we occupy in this nation, we need whites and others to buy black as well to really make it work as an equation. It's not just all of us who are black buying black. It's not going to be enough.
Absolutely. And right now is a great time for those who are in a business, and because everyone outside of us and who looks like us, not everyone, others now are saying, what can we do? Can we show us where to open the doors to those businesses? So now is a good time to, if someone can, open up their minority business and say, here we are, because folks are looking. People are looking.
You know, Randy, to that end, I worked for a guy when I was a teenager, and he taught me something I thought was really smart that I've never done. You know, you make a business plan to start a business, but he would every year make a new business plan. Where has this business gotten? Because the business plan always makes projections, but instead of just living off the projections, he would make a new business plan. This is what I did in this last year. This is what I thought I was going to do by year 3. Am I doing it? And do I need to shift the focus? Because I think with what you're saying, it's true. But if I were to open now, what is good for this pandemic moment, sort of like Chef Cassandra was saying, in 2 years might shift. But if I just stay with whatever I did in 2020, by 2022, that might not be the operational reality that I need to make. Erica's a good example about how she's transitioned from the Caribbean to Florida and made something work, and really thinking ahead so she can stand on her feet and be productive and get her work and her name out there. I think that's one of the keys now, is Cassandra already named it, but being really resilient, really self-evaluating regularly to say, well, what now? Which is challenging.
Absolutely. I feel that. I like great suggestions. Great points. Great points.
It's kind of funny because I've been a pastry chef for going on 32 years, right? And
You're looking like you're 16.
Oh, thank you. I will be 51 this July, so I'm excited.
Amen.
But I've all of a sudden transitioned into coffee. You know, I'm still baking for 3 other coffee shops. I have not stopped since all of this has happened, but I'm managing a coffee company now, about to open a second location of this coffee company, working with the city of Jacksonville, Florida. No one could have ever told me that I would be managing a coffee company at all. You know,
especially if you don't drink coffee.
And I don't drink coffee. But I make some awesome lattes and cappuccinos. So, you know, I really dived into it and did my studies and worked on whatever I have to do, because at the same time I got to pay my bills. But also I'm falling in love with this whole new industry, and it's essential. You know, it's post-virus. I think after living through 2 hurricanes and a tropical storm, it's made me really open my eyes and say, yo, it's not just about being a baker or a pastry chef and making something sweet. You have to move forward. As to what you were saying, Scott, that is what we're all doing, and thinking of what's going to be the next step. I don't see fine dining being the next step for a long time.
No.
You know,
Right. Right, for a
Yeah.
long time.
but I still see gourmet food.
Yeah.
You know,
And I see personal
That
chefs.
gourmet food has to be accessible.
Yeah.
yes,
To be accessible. And I think that those of us who can jump on to what we're doing right now, virtual and in-home learning and teaching people how to properly utilize tools, i.e. Instacart, Whole Foods ordering through Amazon Prime, and prepping and planning that way, because there's a large portion of people who are just not really feeling being out.
Exactly.
And as we're moving back into a second wave, at least we are here in the Midwest.
Well, you know, it's interesting you say that, Shanita, because for a minute I'm on Martha's Vineyard, and I met somebody who runs one of the better coffee roasters, and as a public service in the height of the lockdown, he offered to do home delivery, and it ended up being not economically feasible for him because all these people who didn't want to leave wanted coffee, so he made a good diplomatic push, but the wear and tear on his cars and gas made it not economically feasible. But it shows you that there's a market, that if you can bring it and make the right package. And I don't want to get into politics, but Erica, I'm dying to know, since you work with the city, what is the city doing in Jacksonville food-wise in preparation for the Republican convention? Are they engaging people like you to be able to make food? I mean, it's not people I want to be around, but there's thousands of people there.
Yeah, it's gonna be kind of crazy. And I live literally 10 minutes. I could walk to the convention center where it's gonna be. I won't even be in the neighborhood because where I work is 30 minutes away. So I'll be getting a hotel out of my neighborhood. A lot of us have been on our community boards talking, and we don't feel safe that this is happening. Not a lot of people of Jacksonville are happy about this. For me, it's not going to affect me business-wise. They're going to be crawling all over this area. But I work 30 minutes away with the coffee shop. But when I said that I was working with the city to open a second location, I'm opening the second location in the Jacksonville new public bus station.
Okay.
So all these extra entities are coming in that has nothing to do with this convention, which is really great. It's just that we would have had this open a long time ago if they didn't have the virus. You know what I'm saying? Right. But the city is they want us there. They know it's a Black company. They're very excited about it. We have the opportunity because they've eaten my food at Blue Chocolate before I closed it. I had so many city representatives that were in my cafe. So they called me and said, yo, here's this space. Do you want to get in there? And I said, well, right now I'm working for a whole other company. They knew that I had closed the cafe, but they're like, can you open a cafe inside this bus station? When you look at this bus station, it's state of the art. It's beautiful. You know, you wouldn't think it was a public transportation, area. But coming back to what you said about the Republican convention, a lot of people are very anxious.
I bet.
We have no idea what to expect. Majority, as anywhere else, majority of the workforce is minorities, and they're really nervous. They're not quite sure if they even want to go to work.
And who could blame them?
Right, so we'll have the protesters and the white oh gosh, I can't even pronounce the word, but it's going to be, yes.
I got that.
We know what you're talking about.
Yes. I can never pronounce words properly, so I get that honestly.
Well, we know who those people are.
It's just going to be a lot of friction, a lot of conflict, and we all are kind of locking our doors and moving on forward out.
Absolutely.
But there's going to be a lot of Black people in food service and Latin people that are public facing, and they have to confront these people. What a hell. What hell.
Yeah.
I'm kind of hoping
At minimum pay.
Yeah.
it's canceled.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping too.
Yeah.
With the spiking in Florida, I'm hoping it gets canceled.
So I want to ask a question. I just posted Ashanti's latest comment, but earlier she asked about food insecurity as a problem and revising our infrastructure. So I'm bringing that up because I don't know if that's something that you guys are experiencing in your areas. But here, a good friend of mine, it was more of like a fine dining type restaurant, ended up closing his restaurant. And up until about a week ago, it was a community kitchen. Now he started it because our state, Kansas and Missouri, took so long paying the unemployment benefits for food service workers that people here, I mean, I didn't get my first payment until May 25th. And that was, I haven't gotten any of the back payments from all the other weeks. I got my first payment May 25th.
Whoa.
And so
I got my first payment
Wow.
Friday.
Wow.
So,
I'm about the same as you, Shanita.
Yeah.
Now, did you all get your $1,200 check?
I did get that, thank God, because that's how I paid my rent.
Because I got a notice I was going to get it 6 or 7 weeks ago. I still haven't gotten it.
Oh, wow.
But they sent
well,
out
listen, it's
people checks.
Shanika.
Go ahead, Alex.
Oh, my kids. I have old kids. I have kids older than all of you, actually. No, maybe not Scott.
No, not me.
Anyway, but I have 18-year-old twins, and if you're under 18, you're supposed to get $500, and they got a check for $1,200. So the government is so screwed up. You don't know what's going on, and I just got unemployment Friday, so we can't count on them. The only thing that I would like to add, because I can't add much about the restaurant business because I don't know, and I'm not a foodie. And also, is that your mom?
No, it's not. I'm sorry.
No, it's
No,
okay.
that's okay. Say hello for us. I don't drink coffee either, by the way. I think we all have to work together.
Yeah.
Which is one of the things we've been doing. This great gathering of chefs. We've had them 3 times with anywhere from 16 to 25 people, and where everybody met everybody. And the thing that I notice about the group is that there's not a whole lot of solidarity or camaraderie, and there should be more. And so that's what I'm gonna keep working on, guys, until everybody gets their shit together. Oh,
Sure.
their stuff together, and not you guys.
Did you read my class?
Hey, what was that? I lost you.
I said, oh, you can say shit. I say this all the time.
Oh, okay. I don't. I only say shit. It's my favorite word. It works for everything. So, and I think stuff like this, where everybody's talking because everybody doesn't have good ideas, because they're not just built for that. Creative people are creative, and people that are workers are workers. And so I think this helps everybody that needs the help, and I think we also do a little more.
Sure.
Well,
So
so
not,
here,
yeah. No,
we're
go ahead.
focusing on food insecurity. So what I was saying about what Ashanti was asking about taking care of our own, what we noticed, and we kind of all talked about this and touched on it a little bit with this previous pre-COVID restaurant model. Most people in their establishments have like employee meal or family meal or some type of deep discount, understanding that if you're running a higher end restaurant, 1, people cannot afford to eat there. 2, because of the nature of this beast, they are really relying on their job for their meal. And let's be honest, either you feed them or they're going to steal it. Because if you're at work for 16 plus hours a day, how are you eating? And what are you eating? And so what he found out here is that when he closed, they thought they were just going to feed a few food service people who were hungry because of their waiting. They're in between unemployment payments. But I think that now they've been doing this. They're up to like 70,000 meals total that they've made throughout this whole COVID. And so clearly that's not just food service people that are hungry. There's a lot of people who need to eat and are now in a position where maybe this is their first time food insecure, or their job is closed and they were really relying upon that restaurant for a main source of a way to sustain themselves. Do you guys see how we can deal with this issue post COVID? I mean, because we are the major employers of people of color who are affected by this, it's like we kind of have to be the solution. I don't know who's going to come up with an idea.
You know, I know within my world in food scholars, there's a lot of questioning about along your lines about retooling schools, because in the same way in New York City, they let the schools stay open a lot longer because they knew children were getting 1, 2, or 3 meals in schools. And so the food delivery systems, whatever they are, whether it's a school or, as you're saying, a family meal, need to be rethought in many different ways, because access, and let's be honest, our food is subsidized in this country, and that makes it cheap. Sometimes it's not good food, it's processed, it's cheapest, but we're often not paying the real cost of food. And that, if you then don't have a wage and the food is or isn't subsidized, you have more difficulty getting access to it. And I think certain creative solutions, like I know in our EBT system here, they allowed people to shop at farmers markets and then also buy plants if you had a backyard. So you could plant a tomato. And then if you can care for it, you're not just getting a discount on a tomato at the cash register, but you're growing your own tomatoes or whatever the thing is. And I think we need solutions like that. I think culinary education, the way health ed is happens in schools, needs to happen, so you know how to prepare food economically so they can make wiser, better decisions. I want to repair one thing I said earlier. I mentioned, and it relates to what you're saying now, I mentioned the 2 people I was in conversation with, Ashante Reese and her book, Black Food Geographies, and Monica White and her book, Freedom Farmers, talk about access. Monica's book is historic, looking at the 60s and 70s and different ways that Black people in Mississippi predominantly figured out ways to be able to be part of the food system and get their food to market as farmers and provide food at a reasonable price. And Ashante's book is looking at part of DC, a Black neighborhood called Deanwood, and how choices are made for the community to come together. But I think, as Alan said, getting communities to come together and find ways, whether that's sharing cooking knowledge, bulk buying, has to happen, really creative ways that are both individual and state-sponsored or federally sponsored. It's got to be a three-way street, to me.
I was most surprised when I heard on the news about all the food that the farmers are throwing away because they don't have the ability or the way to get the food to the people. This is just really crazy.
It also touches on the immigration problem, because part of it, there was a bill earlier to relax the number of immigrants who could come in to do field work because they didn't have enough people to harvest the crop.
Yeah, there were 4,000 farms that have closed up so far because there's nobody to work. And then I don't know about outside of New York, but in New York, it's all the best workers were Mexicans and Ecuadorians. That's all they wanted to do was work. And so they're either hiding or they've been chased away, But hopefully that'll change in November.
We have to work project administration like they did in the Depression to create jobs that people who are unemployed could have, to be able to gain a wage and provide a service to the society.
Yeah. So Terry has a question as our advice for culinary students graduating and can't find cooking jobs. Everybody can take a stab.
Great question.
I think that they should reach out to Alan for mentorship and look at alternative food careers. And I'm saying that very seriously. Very seriously.
Well, everybody that's been in the book knows that the email that I sent out, because we have these meetings once a week, and several people said that they would like to mentor students, the young people that want to be in the culinary business. So I reached out to Food and Finance High School, which is a public school in New York. Most of you all know of it. Spoke with the principal. Actually, what's today? Today is Tuesday. Sunday, I called him at home. He's contacting all the seniors because I was going to do interviews with all of the chefs that are in the book. and we're going to have the seniors do it now so that they can talk to all the chefs and they can be mentored. We have 101 mentors waiting to take care of these kids, and I think it's a good start.
Yeah.
It's a good idea.
Go ahead. She's saying that she can't even find an externship, and it's going to be really hard
Right now, for sure, there's
to-
nothing around.
to find anything, any place to work. You can't even leave town and go anywhere. I mean,
For one thing, I don't know anything about it to say, but I'd be curious if Jose Andres' organization that's doing work in many communities might be a place to look into.
yeah, that might be a good place to look. That's the link for the book. Someone asked for it. I'm just posting it again. Yeah, it's really hard. I know that some of our apprentices here, like the places that are still working, none of the ones that I know in a hotel or a higher end restaurant have been working because some of those just now reopened for just carry out. But I do know that a lot of people are looking at places that are like senior living centers, retirement, the higher end retirement villages, and places like that because their guests are like on property and can't leave and still need their food service. And yes, no, it's not sexy food, but it's food. It's still cooking. But that's an idea. And then my other suggestion is start looking at alternative food careers, food writing, blogging, styling, photography, producing videos, and creating a platform from home where you can build a name for yourself on YouTube or Instagram or things like that. Because it's going to be really hard, I think, for at least the next 6 months to start anything in any type of establishment.
Great suggestion.
I don't know anything more to say. I just looked online quickly at World Central Kitchen, and they have a training program they've had since 2015. So I would at least go to that website, World Central Kitchen, and look around and see if there's a way that, because I know that they're going to many cities and setting up little encampments to provide food service, and you'd get incredible on the job training if it's something that I have no idea what they pay or what it is. But, I think you're right, Shanita, in what you're saying. If they want to be cooking, that might be a way. I know some country clubs also are working because golfing.
My son is working at the country club with his dad. Poor thing. In a mask, hot. He said, "I got a mask on. I got fry grease." I'm like,
sexy.
Like my face is sticking out. It's hot.
Yes, and also looking to reach out to the caterers, as Chef Cassandra was saying. Caterers, if they're positioned correctly, may have more work than they can handle right now. And work is work. And you never know who you're working with. So, yes, because someone you're working with may be buying or owning a restaurant in the next gig or can take you with them. So reach out to the caterers.
Okay, so before we go, I have asked the same question because my therapist asked me this, and I have to have an answer for her by the 8th. So maybe y'all. No, I'm just kidding. She said that COVID is a reset, and she asked me, "What do I want to be, or where do I see myself headed post-COVID?" So I'm asking you guys that professionally and personally. Is there something that you would like to see reset in the food business as a whole? And then what are you resetting in your personal life, your personal career as a whole? I mean, I'm definitely doing better with my time management. I used to work myself about 17 hours a day, running on 4 hours of sleep. I'm not doing that anymore. So
lucky. I need a break. I'm sorry. Anyone want to?
Well, Anita, to what you said, I'm giving myself more of a break than I usually do. I usually run myself too hard, and realizing the need to have rest and self-care. I always knew it intellectually, but trying to do it, and I'm trying to rethink. For me, it's not just COVID; it's COVID and the violence against Blacks that has been so much in our face now, and made me have to really rethink where do I want to be in this society? What do I want to be doing? Where do I want to put my energy? How do I want to get work I think needs to be done, and also not be a bridge to people, but make them do the work, because that's one of the things that's coming out of this is I really have to change the way I look at everything I do, because I think that people who have privilege based on color or economics get more out of it with doing less work, and I need to not be lazy, but let them be more responsible in everything I do.
Oh, that's good. Letting people be more responsible. Anybody else?
That's kind of tough. I like how you said it's reset.
Yeah.
Like 2020
like to
is
go.
hindsight, and we have a chance to reset so much that wasn't working. And for me personally, what wasn't working was wearing all the hats. And so I would like to delegate better and responsibly. That would benefit not just myself, but the business as a whole and those who are involved with the business. So that's how I would like to do that. And to I'm a workaholic, so I can't say more time for myself because then I'll just go crazy. I haven't figured out how to sit back. But personally, just grab up my grandkids and get some traveling with them. But yeah, that's it for me.
Well, Randy, may I introduce you to the Tiger King? It's a
Yeah.
good way to get lost in a whole bunch of fuckery. For all would like to understand how a gay man turns with men and tigers. Go for it.
Well, I have to tell you, I did see it, and I'm done. If they came up with another season, leave me out.
Right.
It's a train wreck. It's like this. You're like,
just could exactly.
This, but I'm just gonna keep. Okay, Chef Cassandra. Uh-oh, can you hear me? Chef?
It's just a little delay.
When she
Well,
freezes, it's always
I think
beautiful.
that I've been asking myself this question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we hear you fine.
I've been asking myself. Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you, Randy. I been asking myself this just the last couple of days. 2020. 2020 is a paradigm shift for all of us. And when we think of 2020, we think of perfect vision, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you think of 21st half, we're now in July, and 22nd till December, what is that perfect vision, if you will? So I reset button is going to be paramount, and more with less, and to be able to work smarter and not harder.
Yes.
All across the board, because several things are happening now. People are changing what's important. We are no longer the flamboyant type of society as we once was. Who's looking? Who's paying attention? You're not able to go to the salon, so we're not as beautiful as we'd like to be, So, but the fact of the matter is that the paradigm shift is allowing us to take this melting pot of what's happening and throw it back to the wall like pasta and see what sticks. And we have to remain liquid, fluid, as someone said earlier, liquid as water, because we're sticking and moving really fast. Because come January 2021, we will begin to see the light. So this is preparation time now. Preparing for 2021, because one is a whole number. And that's going to be the vision.
Right.
Focusing on the one is going to take us over. Catapult us over. So if I leave anything there, forget what was, because it was. Focus on what's to be, because it's a plethora of opportunity there, right? And so having the opportunity to just scrape the plate and start over. Now is the time to plan for 2021.
Yep.
All right.
Right.
I know she came in with the word. She,
Yeah,
the
really.
doors of the church are now open. Okay, I select you to take up a collection.
That's
Chef
fine.
Shanita, your therapist is going to be like, what?
I know, right? I'm gonna have to go back and listen to this thing and write that down. That's what she said. 2020 was full, perfect vision. Hopefully, she's not watching, so she won't be like,
Yes, perfect.
"Did you come up with that all on your own?"
Put your own twist to it. Put your own twist to it.
I'm gonna be like, "I repurposed."
Yeah.
I'm
There
gonna
you
do like they do us when they discover our food. I discovered a new concept,
There you go.
Okay.
Absolutely.
something that somebody else said, and it's mine now. What
There
about
you
you,
go.
Alan?
They call it deconstructing.
Right, deconstructing.
They call it deconstructing of food.
Yes, deconstructing.
You
What
hear
about
that?
you, Alan?
Yeah.
What's my? Honestly, I'm on hold right now because I just recently reinvented myself, and now it's who knows where it's going to go. And honestly, I have to wait until something settles down a little because being a food photographer, it's not going to be that busy anymore. It wasn't. It was slowing down anyway between iPhones and the rents being too high for the chefs. They didn't need me as much. And so I've been reading books. If my dream would be to keep doing what I'm doing now with you guys, and maybe pick another group and see what I can. As long as I'm paying the rent and I can help, that would be a wonderful thing. That's what I like to do. But other than that, I can't imagine what else I do. I'm not educated. I'm very creative, but sometimes creativity gets you I don't know where. So I don't know, honestly.
Well, you guys have all been amazing. I appreciate you all. Once this goes live, please go back and read the comments. There's questions that were directed to you guys personally, so you'll be able to respond back to the people. And I will share all of your Facebook links. And I just appreciate you guys participating in the conversation. This is my little contribution, Chef Eric and I's contribution in controlling our narrative as Black chefs and creating a visual documentary series for the young people coming up who don't have to come up in this industry like we all did. Like, I don't see anybody. It's just me. So thank you guys all again, and we will see you guys
One more
next.
time. Here, let me.
Well, thank you, Chef Erica. Thank you, Chef Shanita. Nice meeting
Show the
everyone.
book one more time. This is your amazing book. We're all so proud to be in this project. Thank you, Alan, again. Thank you to the chefs, your creativity and your vision. We love you and thank you so much.
Love you back. Thank you.
People definitely want to know from you about those 2 books that you were mentioning. So please make sure you drop the information about the correct titles to those in the comment section. And thank you guys all. And we will see you guys back here again next Tuesday at 6:00 p.m. Central for the conversation. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.